Some may not be good, and some may be very good, and some may be middling. But even so, the alchemy of decision is not absolutely forecastable. And I think dark horses win the survival race, and sometimes the favorite falls on his duff, and all bets are off, you know?
Bill?
Here, let me give you an example. This happens to be my business. One of the ways our firm makes its living, such as it is, I was chuckled when they put that sign up on the bulletin board. This is a non-profit organization. It wasn't planned that way, but worked out that way just the same. We measure human beings and forecast what they're going to do. And we have a good batting average because people keep buying our services, and it isn't because we're pretty. And this is no infringement of human free will, is it? All right. What we do, the papers say, is something pretty grotesque. They use the specific word grotesque. They can do a lot better job, but even they say they can't absolutely forecast human decision. I think what the thought adjuster has is probabilities, but not certainties.
Well, then the adventure is...
Accepted Judas. The papers say it was a faith adventure on Jesus' part. I don't think Jesus absolutely knew how Judas was going to come out. If Michael weren't actually a human being, then the whole bestowal is a farce, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think he really sweated out. I think he really was tempted. I think he really was tried. I think he really was subjected to enormous stress. This was for real. Question.
Do you think it
Paper 1180, page 1185. Last paragraph. Although we do not definitely know, we firmly believe that all thought adjusters are volunteers. But before ever they volunteer, they are in possession of full data respecting the candidate for indwelling. The seraphic drafts of ancestry and projected patterns of life conduct are transmitted via Paradise to the Reserve Corps of Adjusters on Divinington by the reflectivity technique, extending inward from the capitals of the local universes to the headquarters of the super-universes. This forecast covers not only the hereditary antecedents of the mortal candidate, but also the estimate of probable intellectual endowment and spiritual capacity. The adjusters thus volunteer to indwell minds of whose intimate natures they have been fully appraised. But there's one thing the thought adjuster doesn't know. What kind of a personality is the Universal Father going to endow this creature with?
combination is
Right. This is not completely forecastable. Because remember, every time God bestows personality, it is a volitional act on his part. And to understand how and why and what he does, you would have to understand more than the divine counselor who writes the paper dealing with personality. It's beyond the divine counselor.
No, the entire state is.
Test the biologic, environmental, and intellectual background. And you can probably make some awfully good forecasts, but you don't really know.
That same thing holds true.
True, Melchizedek.
He indwelt Melchizedek, yes. Yes.
What do we know about
Almost nothing.
That's
The
it.
paper 5 says, when God bestows it, we do not know. How he does it, we do not know. However, we do know this. The creature is a personality before he makes a moral choice, or he couldn't make the moral choice, which brings the adjuster. When that personality appears, I don't know. Neither do the authors of the papers. But it exhibits itself in the first moral choice.
well,
Yes. Or you have a 5 adjutant mind,
yeah.
you do get a 6th value in there, which is the individuality value. And it's not a personality. And in a baby, to what extent you have a foreshadowing of that, and to what extent that's what we think is personality, and when the doggone personality comes, I don't know. I don't think anybody else knows. Because the first time you can be sure it's there is when you see it in action. And that's when the first moral choice is made. But it must have been there. It must have been there for some time before that choice could have been made.
Do we know?
When? It's in the 5th year.
2134th day of life.
That's how many years, Fred?
5 and 2/3, I think.
All right. That's when it hits on the average. Well, what do you think of my idea about paying some attention to your thought adjuster?
I think it's wonderful.
I'm still interested in it though.
To be friends with your thought adjuster. To, yes,
The thought adjuster,
to sit down for a short beer with my thought adjuster. You know what I mean? And I'm deliberately using some rather street English here. It is a gemütlich period. I haven't got any business to transact. Intellectually, I agree with you completely. Emotionally, I find it easier to talk to my partner
Was that just a
directly to God.
according
To me, there's
his life, he suggests that you do.
there's no difference between the thought adjuster and the universal Father.
Oh.
but
What about Jesus?
Here, I feel this way. When I'm talking to my thought adjuster, I'm using a telephone to talk to God.
committee at
Why?
I think it's fun to sit down with your partner when you're not in trouble, when you don't have any particular issue, and be friends. You know, how many of you who have had kids in college realize that you'll always hear from them when they run out of money or need something? And that's good. That's good. No denying. But it's awful nice if they'll pick up the phone and call up when they don't particularly need anything, just to chat. Isn't that even nicer?
Oh.
Is real. The thing that is real to you and the thought adjuster is your soul and personality.
That's true.
And mine.
I mean, I follow that.
Sure.
Anything we would do.
But I can't follow.
Besides knowing the end from the beginning.
Bill, isn't that Tom?
For the course. Now, it's possible not to fuse with your thought adjuster. That fusion may be delayed all throughout the Morantia career. You may be long delayed in fusing. No fault of yours, and obviously not of the adjusters. When you get all the way to Salvington, there are a very few beings. This is a minuscule part of 1% who never fuse for no discernible reason. The adjuster is detached, and they are immediately fused with an individualized portion of the spirit of the Creator Son. And this is the origin of the Sun-fused ascenders. No fault of either party. It merely produces a different type of being with a slightly different
What
destiny.
happens to the,
Personality goes right on with the ascending being. The thought adjuster,
what happens to the ascendant being is really the way I want to do it.
he goes right on into the super universe career and becomes,
Not if I know it or.
no, he becomes a permanent citizen of Uversa.
I think,
Right.
yeah.
The thought adjuster
Yeah.
is released for further indwelling.
Yeah.
This ministry discusses basically origin, mission of thought adjusters, and what they do for creatures. And it goes on into the full dress discussion of human survival. The discussion of the adjuster and the soul,